You know, developmental psychology dictates that a child needs both parents in order to grow up healthy. And I've had to argue this with people who haven't shared my experiences. People who have grown up in a middle class, unlike I, who was in the upper sector of the lower class. And I can assure you, a child definitely does need both parents in order to grow up healthy. I'm one of those ones who didn't exactly grow up healthy. I'm fortunate that I am the way I am right now. Anyways, I am Dash Island, and you are listening here on Divided Spectrum. Now, before I get started, I want to start something new, and I'm basically going to say, please help Sinatra Says with his quest to get remonetized by YouTube, because what is happening is he got demonetized by YouTube by the adpocalypse, and he's been asking why he's been demonetized. He took all the steps to not get demonetized again, and he still won't answer him. So please support him in that endeavor. I love watching his videos, and I understand where he's coming from. He has to support 2 kids, and he's just trying to bring some good content to you. Just a good old boy. So please, support Sinatra Says. I love his content. You would too. Let's get into it. So, why did I mention a thing about developmental psychology? Well, I figured I'm going to do a video about how my experiences have shaped what parenting should be like. What you should do and what you shouldn't do. And I'm probably going to get heat from this. Of course, I've been involved in arguments with my parents because of what they did during some crucial years of my life that really affected my view of them. One of them took it in a very good way, and the other doesn't exactly take it well. And I am not going to apologize for the stuff I have to say because it's part of the message I'm conveying. Now, I am fortunate that I was not in an abusive household, but unfortunately, there are so many people out there that are and they still suffer from abuse, or that they have irreparable scars. And my heart hurts about that. It is a very unfortunate reality that we have come to live in. And really, it all boils down to how you are as a parent. So let's go through the do's first, because I've listed things about what you should do as a parent and what you shouldn't do from my own experiences. And I find it a little bit messed up that I could list more don'ts and do's in a short amount of time. And here's one of the do's. Now, because I'm also going to be a teacher, I believe heavily in collaboration. I follow the authoritative models very closely, because authoritative, it means you're working with someone. You have rules with consequences, but you're not purely authoritarian. You're not God. You're not the emperor of all things. It just shows that you want to work with someone. I believe if you meet me halfway, I will meet you halfway. That is my core belief. And if you can collaborate with your child as a parent so that they have some kind of incentive, that they have a reason for doing stuff to work with you, it creates that bond. And it allows a child to trust you, because it shows you're bringing promises there that you can deliver upon. Collaboration is a huge, huge thing. And when parents are not willing to collaborate or be there for their kid, the kid is not going to want to trust them. That kid is going to become very detached, and then they're going to become standoffish around other people. So collaboration is important. I didn't always have it with my parents, but with my grandparents, they worked with me and stuff. And they worked with stuff with my sister, because me and my sister had to live with them. So collaboration is a big thing. Then there's guidance. Now, with collaboration, of course, you're allowing some independence for your child. But you also have to offer that guidance. You don't want to say, this is my way. No, it's going to be, I can't say that my experience is going to be the same as your experience. But there are some things I think you should know, and I'm going to give you a helping hand along the way. That's guidance. That's how it's always been, in my opinion, it's important to bring guidance to your child, because if you don't give any, they're going to be so lost. And my parents didn't exactly give me tips on certain things because they thought I was going to think like a neurotypical, and a lot of people know that I'm autistic. I got the autism. I know some people find it offensive that I'm making autism jokes, but hey, I can make them. I have something to laugh about. That's myself. Next point of parenting dues. Empathy. Empathy goes a long way. Now, they try to claim that people like me who are on the autism spectrum lack empathy, but that's not true. We just have some difficulty in trying to respond to situations that require empathy. Doesn't mean there's a lack. Now, empathy, it means you gotta try and consider how they're feeling, what they're thinking. Put yourself in their shoes. A lot of things that parents have trouble with is that they're so used to their way and whatnot that they forget to think about what their child is thinking. Like, of course, when you have a child that's a teenager, they're going to become irrational. They're going to think that their world is collapsing when they don't get what they want or something like that. And that is perfectly normal. They're going to be rebellious. You got to think about how you were as a child. You got to think about how you were as you were younger. You got to think about how dumb you were. And then use that as a way. Connect to them on that level. And use that empathy. Try and find a way to think about what makes them tick so that you can bring about your point as a parent. That goes a long way, in my opinion. Humanism is another big thing. I call it humanism. I don't know what the term is. But when you're a parent, your child expects you to be this invincible superhero who will always be there for them. Of course, there's going to be your off days. Days where you just can't be that superhero for them. And then when you can't, they're going to be let down if you keep posing that picture. And of course, it's not your fault, but this is something I believe. You can be the hero for them, and you can be their almighty protector, but also show your human side. Show that you're not always going to be great. You show that to them, then they're going to be more understanding. And it also teaches your children empathy. It shows a more openness towards mental health or physical health and whatnot, and it carries on into the world. Take, for example, how Ben Carson was when he was growing up as a child. From what was explained in the movie Gifted Hands, it basically showed how when Carson was growing up, his mother would have off days, like just days where she's just suddenly so depressed. And her kids understood that, and they're able to accommodate for it. They didn't get mad, they didn't get depressed, they understood. So that's something I believe is big. We also need openness, because if you're holding back from your child, or there's certain things that you don't want to say, or there's certain things about how you feel that you're unexpected, that just goes to the part about a child finding reasons not to trust you. But if you can be more open with them, show what's really on your mind and whatnot, your child can understand you, they'll be there for you and whatnot. That's a big deal. It goes to be part of collaboration, empathy, and humanism. Respect is always a key deal. Kids want to be respected. They want to be treated like people. And that deal is, you treat them with respect, they will treat you with respect. It's all part of collaboration. That has been a major point I'm emphasizing, is all going into collaboration as a parent. Because if you have no respect for your kid, they're just going to become another resentful adult in this mean world. You gotta show them unconditional love. Even when there's times you hate each other, where you're just arguing, where it seems like you just want to strangle each other. You gotta show that you're going to love them no matter what. Because it shows that even in the face of differences, even when they feel so lost and whatnot, that you are their parent no matter what. That you are that guiding hand. You gotta show them that even when it seems like no one else loves them, you're going to be that superhero. But on the other hand, you also do need healthy discipline. That means when they act up, you gotta do something. Now, whenever I grew up in a military household. I grew up where if you said a curse word when you were told not to, or you acted up, or you didn't do your chores, you got a belt across the ass. Now that's a good thing. Because it really teaches you, hey, don't do that, you get this. It hurts like a bitch. Don't do it. That's exactly the point. I got into an argument with a teacher about this. They were talking about corporal punishment. Now, it's different on the level of parenting as compared to schools. But the thing is, it's not really abuse, but showing, hey, don't do this. Because, what this teacher had brought up, this was actually a band director of mine from the past. She was talking about we shouldn't have that because it humiliates the child. But here's the thing. That's a good thing. It's called a humbling experience. If it's going to humiliate them, it's going to teach them, hey, don't do this or you're going to get spanked in front of a bunch of your peers again. It sucks, but it's a great motivator, in my opinion. It could be the same way in parenting. It definitely worked on me. So many behaviors that I had as a kid got whooped out of me by a thick belt. I mean, it wasn't that thick, but it was like one of those belts that a lot of military personnel will use. But those are the dues of parenting. Now let's look at the opposite of the things you should never do as a parent. First one is narcissism. Never be a narcissist. Because that kind of plays into sociopathic stuff. You never want to be that with a child because then there's just no respect there. Because I've had arguments with my own mother on this. Because like I'll try to bring up stuff and she can be a bit selfish at times. I'm going to be honest there. Where I try to say one thing, but she tries to quickly dismiss it with her own deal. And that's kind of going to go into other points I'm going to make. But one point I made is I kind of had a bit of anger towards my mother back in the summer of 2018. Because back during that time, I would constantly get yelled at, and I don't like being yelled at. I'm sure if you have a child with autism, or if you have autism yourself, you can understand what it's like to be yelled at. You don't like it, it makes you want to be an asshole. That's how I've always seen things. Anyways, I could never truly get through to her that I don't like being yelled at. And I didn't appreciate it, and it really affected our relationship as mother and son. And whenever we did that, she'd either break out crying or get angry at me. It's like, you don't respect your mother. I'm like, well, I need to be respected too, because I am a 21-year-old adult here. I need respect too. I know that you have that unconditional love, but you also can't use that as some kind of weapon to try and make yourself good. Because it goes to that parent that's always like, after all I've done for you, I put a roof over your head and I fed you. Yeah, that's what a parent is supposed to do. Yeah. Definitely a parenting thing. Don't think about yourself. You have to consider the child. Because when you become a parent, it's no longer about you. All your focus needs to be on the child and raising them. While this was more of a prevalent problem for me in my late teenage to adulthood years, it's something that is definitely a point to be brought up. Outlets of anger. This plays into abuse. You need to watch how you play your anger, because it definitely plays into a kid. It's been shown like many bullies in schools are bullies because they don't have a good home life at all. So you really gotta watch your anger outlet. Don't punch walls. Don't hit your children. Don't hit the other parent. Don't hit anything. Don't yell, really. And if you need to yell at a mirror. My grandmother always told me this, that whenever she would get angry, she would just go into a mirror, scream at it, and she'd be all better. And the thing is, my grandparents are scary people when they're mad because they rarely ever get mad. Because after all, you don't mess with people who can contain themselves really well. But really contain your anger. If you're going to have anger, I think, put it into something healthy. Like, put it into video games. Or put it into music. that'll play off into kids. And it'll show them a new way to relieve stress, anxiety, or anger. Do not hit them. Because I've known people who have lived under abusive households. I know a person who was abused by their father in 3 different ways. And believe me, hate is a very strong feeling. And I don't really feel like I hate anybody, but if there's one person I truly hate, it's that person's father. I do not tolerate abusive figures at all. So, of course, obviously, don't hate kids. And you're wondering, I'm talking about healthy discipline as a dude with using an ass whipping from a belt. That's completely different. It's very different. I'm okay with the idea of using spanking your child as a discipline, but to a certain degree. Because there are going to be so many people, they abuse their children physically, that they claim it's discipline. And the child is going to grow up thinking that every single thing they do is wrong. That they push people away because they don't know how to react. So really, you have to watch out for your outlets of anger. Gaslighting. That is a big thing. You never want to gaslight anywhere. Gaslighting means you're trying to convince a person that what they're feeling is not real. Like someone is like, I feel like you're not being honest with me. And the people's like, nah, you're crazy. I'm always honest with you. That's kind of a form of gaslighting. And I've been gaslit before. Not as much as other people, but I've still experienced it. Now this might, well, my mother would see this as hit piece on her. It's not. I'm just showing my experience. One thing I can say, it's like, back whenever I was figuring out some of my own problems, because I'm a human, I have some mental troubles, there's a possibility that I could have had BPD, even though I know that's not true anymore. I tried to bring up a point, I'm like, hey mom, there's a possibility I could have BPD, and she's like, no you're not, I have BPD, so you don't have it. That kind of plays into the empathy issue, and it pissed me off a little. It's really, you don't want to do that. You're playing your experiences to make it seem like they don't have it as bad as you do. You never want to do that. You want to show, yeah, your experiences are bad, and I should consider that. To me, whenever I talk to people, of course, I'm going to be open about what I am. But I'm not going to say my experiences are worse. I'm just going to say that I've had these experiences. There are different people I've talked to that I'm close to in my life. I'm like, I've done this. I've experienced this. And they'll share their experiences. I don't say, oh, mine is worse than yours, or something like that. I just say that we have our experiences, and it's our job to work together to help each other. So definitely don't gaslight. It's something you should never do. Scapegoating. That plays heavily, because I've had to deal with that for the past 2 years. I was always taught never use different disabilities or such to advance yourself. Never play the autism card. And I understand that, but it's kind of hard not to do that when you got your parent or a role model that is being hypocritical about that. And I'm honest about that being hypocritical. Because whenever my mother would lash out at us, like yelling at us or whatnot, she'd be like, oh, it's the menopause. I'm like, shut up. That's what's in my mind. You're wondering, how do you respect my mother? I will respect my mother, but there's just things that I'm tired of. There's scapegoating. If you don't want your child to play any cards, don't play your cards. Be like, I think my mother could have handled like to deal with her menopause in a better way. Saying, I have to go through this and I apologize in advance. Not like, you should always forgive me because I have this. No, don't be that way. With how I viewed this, my experience, there are so many things that my parents have done that are things you should never do as a parent. And I think people would agree with me, like, don't use that card. Like, don't use that as some way to excuse yourself. Instead, own up to your shortcomings. Own up to the things that you do that are wrong. That's the philosophy I've lived by. When I talk to my friends and I screw up, like I lash out in anger at them or I treat them wrong, I own up to it. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry about this. There's no excuse for it, but I'm trying my best. That's my experience on everything. Next don't of parenting. Addiction. This goes a long way and part of developmental psychology of why you should always be there for your kid. Addiction really causes that rift. And it plays into the next few points of like not defending your child or not being there or breaking your trust. Because when you get addicted, that not only sends a bad message to your child, but it makes you more detached. Like, you're not being there. You might be there physically, but you're not there emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. That's a bad thing. And when you're not there, and you're just high as hell all the time, or drunk off your ass, it makes an attachment anxiety. Like, they don't have a figure to latch onto to make a healthy relationship. Because after all, whenever I grew up, both my parents were addicts. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was a heroin addict. And whenever I needed my mother, she was high or whatnot. And I developed attachment anxiety, which has affected my relationships with people. And it's been something I've been working on myself, but it's been hard. And it's especially hard to like come to terms with that. My mother would probably say, "You're living in the past, get over it." Well, it's kind of hard to when you're not going to own up to your shortcomings. It's kind of hard when you can't talk about something without getting gaslit or being treated like you're crazy or you're being scapegoated or if the person is being a bit selfish about themselves. I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm saying that to be honest about things you definitely shouldn't do as a parent and using my own experiences. It's kind of screwed up that I have to put in this disclaimer, but I have to. So definitely don't be an addict. And again, if you're going to do substances like heroin or alcohol and regularly be addicted to it, don't be a parent. Okay? Use protection, use birth control. I don't care. Don't have a kid. Not defending your child. Your child is going to need times when you're going to be that superhero. You got to defend them. That goes into the trust. Surely there's some things that you would normally beat their ass for or would disagree with them, but whenever it comes to other places, you got to find a way to strike the balance so that your child feels like you're defending them. Because when you don't, that breaks their trust. Not being there, like I said, forms attachment anxiety. Breaks their trust. Breaking their trust. Let me tell you how that shares the whole addiction point. Breaking their trust is a big deal. Once you break their trust, it's going to be hard. That's what happened to me. That's why I have a rift with one of my parents. And why I don't have one with the other. We'll get into that. Breaking her trust. Like back when my mother was an addict, she would regularly steal some of my stuff and pawn it. Because that's what junkies do. And I would also have money borrowed, quote unquote, and never returned. And whenever I calculated that money that I was owed, they're like, okay, Rain Man calculating the money. Now, I might be making autism jokes about myself, but that's definitely not okay. That is wrong. And I will get pissed off about that. Anyways, and there's stuff like that. And like I said, I can't even bring those points up and talk about them without being gaslit, saying, I don't remember that, you must be crazy, or get over it, it's in the past. Well, couldn't exactly talk about it if you refuse to be open. Manipulation, that goes another long way. That plays into abuse, because that is abuse. Like saying, after all I've done for you, or if you don't do this, then you're not a good child. Or saying, I put a roof over your head, I fed you, I put clothes on your back. That type of manipulation. Bad, bad, bad. Avoid it at all costs. You never want to do that. And last one is neglect. You never want to neglect your child. Make sure that if you're going to have a child in your house, have enough resources for them. Share what you have. Food, entertainment, what have you. Because back during the early days of my parents' divorce, I lived with my father for a year. And that's whenever there was part of the peak of his and the start of his alcoholism. And he didn't have much food in the fridge, and I would either have to eat at my mother's or I'd have to find some way. But whenever I ate his food that was in the fridge, he would get angry at me for that, saying, "Don't eat my food." Well, there were other things that went on. But whenever my father quit, he definitely owned up to everything. I would talk to him about it. It's like, "I know, I'm sorry, bud." And he doesn't like that part of him anymore either. He's a much healthier spot. And I'm able to better empathize with my father. I have a better relationship with him for that. And that's part of it. Own up to your shortcomings and your mistakes. That'll show your kids honesty. I am the biggest person on honesty. I stress it. While I'm not exactly open about how I feel for certain people, I'm big on honesty. And that's in contrast to the way my mother would be. Like, there are so many addicts out there. I put this in a previous video about why we gotta stop saying, "Oh, addiction is a disease." Yes, it's a disease, but stop using it as an excuse for your shitty behavior. I'm going to be that honest. Ay. But whenever my mother recovered and stopped being an addict, she was then like, "I'm an addict. I couldn't help it." That's sort of gaslighting in a way. So don't do that. So take it from me, from my experience. Take it from all the people who are unfortunate victims from abuse, about what you should do as a parent and what you shouldn't do. Think about the do's, and you shouldn't have to worry about the don'ts as much. Set your own limits, set your own boundaries. Be open, be a human, be good, respect people, be a good parent. Now my blood pressure is rising. Probably is. But I think you get the point of the rant about the do's and don'ts of parenting. We'll see you next time, Divided Spectrum viewers. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more content.